Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? My name is Rob Carmona, and welcome back to another episode of Rob the Mic. For this week's episode, I wanted to jump into a topic that I've kind of been sprinkling here and there, been talking about it every now and then. And last night, I had a conversation with a friend of mine that reinforced jumping into this topic entirely. So, what I wanted to talk about is the whole idea of just kind of falling in and out of love with things that you used to really care about or things that used to drive you forward. And last night, I was on my way to 240 Tuesday with a buddy of mine, Zoe. It's been a while since we've hung out. And anytime we hang out, we always have great conversation. And one of my favorite things about hanging out with Zoe is that we can always talk with no walls. There's no safeties, there's no anything. It's just kind of no holds bar. Let's talk about whatever, whether it's things with emotions, things about, love, life, anything like that. And there's no judgment. There's really nothing to be scared about, that we can have fully non-judgmental conversation. And, I get to his house, gave him a hug. I'm like, cool, dude, let's roll out. So we start making our way. And I don't remember exactly how we got onto the topic, but we started talking about just the shift that we both feel is like that's happening right now. And I know it's not just us. I know a lot of you guys listening and or watching right now, you kind of are starting to feel the same thing. And it's a weird, I don't know, there's a weird thing happening. Just too much is shifting at the moment. So I feel like a lot of my loves, a lot of my passions, a lot of the things that I used to really care about, I'm no longer caring for. Like, I'm no longer putting in the forefront. A lot of that stuff is starting to get put on the back burner. And last night was kind of one of those moments because Sid had hit me up earlier in the day because it's his event, and I try to go every single month. I try to take my car as best as I can. If I can't, I still try to roll out there. But he hit me up and was like, "Hey, dude," and I didn't even think about it this way. But he goes, "Yo, are you gonna come out tonight?" It's like, it's the last 240 Tuesday of the year. And I was like, damn, you know what? You're right. And I hadn't even thought about it like that. And I wasn't feeling up to it. And my original plan was just to not go because I haven't been in it. I haven't really been feeling it. But I was like, you know what? I want to go. I want to see certain homies, Sid. I want to spend time with Zoe and just kind of let out for a little bit. Let's go laugh a little bit. Let's go talk some shit. Let's have a good time. Let's have a good night, And of course, it's a double for me, double win, because I get my pastrami and it's cool. It's cool. I get my fix, my once a month fix. Sometimes I have it more than that, but this month it'll probably be my last time having it. But either way, it's as we're on our way over there, Zoe and I start talking, right? And he starts talking to me we start talking about photography and how I'm starting to reconnect with just sort of creating any sort of media like that. And it has been very photo heavy right now. It's definitely been photo heavy. But I'm on the back end. I'm also still trying to shoot video. I'm still trying to calculate and do certain events and figure out where I'm going to go next and all that. And he was talking to me about kind of just falling in and out of it. And I said, dude, you know what? It's wild because I get that. Like, I remember when I got my camera and I got my new setup, I was super gung-ho on it. I was like, yeah, dude, we're going to go create all this stuff, going to go do all these things. And then I lost it. But that now I'm starting to come back into it. And we were just talking about how that wave works, like that falling in and out, but how important it is to get yourself out of it, because nothing or nobody can help you get out of that. And it's one thing to fall into a creative rut, but I'm talking about just kind of falling out of love with something that you loved in general. Because that's like, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's something that you care for. It's something that you love doing. And all of a sudden you kind of you're not in it. You're in this weird funk in life. You're in this weird creative funk. And you're like, what do I do? What do I want to do? And we started talking about photography. And then it started to kind of stem into work and career changes and where we want to go, what we want to do, and that we didn't really have answers for each other. But one thing that was funny we talked about is because I had actually talked about this with Albert the other day, and I said, you know what, dude, a part of me wants to just like sell everything and disappear. Just go somewhere else, whether it's another country, another state, I don't know, and just kind of start over in a way. And not to run away from my problems, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But I think it's just to kind of get a new or different perspective on things, because I've had such a shift in my perspective, as a lot of you know, because of what's happened in the last few months. There are things I've never experienced before. It's not like I'm overwhelmed by it, but so much is changing so fast. And again, because I've never experienced it, I feel kind of out of place. And I'm trying to feel like I'm looking for a ground to stand on. And Zoe's in a similar state where certain things have changed up career-wise. He's trying to find a ground to stand on. Creative-wise, he's trying to find a ground to stand on. Like personally, he's trying to find all these things just to kind of regain a surface to move about. And for myself, like when he was talking about it, it was almost like that weird realization where it's like, are you talking about me? Because I was in a similar boat, and well, not even was, like I am in a similar boat, and we don't know where we're going, either of us. And I think a really important part of that conversation was realizing that it's okay to feel that way, that it's okay to be lost, that it's actually more than okay. Like it's pretty cool to be in that state. Like it's a gift, because we're given a chance to reassess everything, the people, our careers, what makes us happy, what actually makes us happy. I think that's a question. We're all constantly trying to find and seek happiness, right? But it's when you strip it down to the bare minimum, black and whites, what is it that you need to see in that photo? What is it that you need to truly make you happy? So coming to that realization with him, and when we both kind of hit that moment, we sat there and we're like, damn, this is it's crazy being the age that we are and hitting these points, right? Because you hear it from different people, like, oh dude, things are going to change, you're going to hit this shift at one point, you're going to hit this shift, and you're like, yeah, all right, whatever. And then because you live in this sort of, how would you say, like this routine, as people, we develop these routines and we fall into them, and that becomes our life. You kind of live this weird, mundane, just, wake up, go to work, do your thing, come home, and it's the same thing every single day. But when that breaks, it's a very violent awakening, because you're like, wait, what? Like there's no more rhythm. Like the record's completely stopped. And now all of a sudden you don't know what to listen to. You don't know what to put on. You don't know which way to go. You don't know anything. And I think with societal pressures, we're taught that we have to find a job, we find a career, and you just do that essentially until you die. You find some sort of state of being comfortable, and that's it. You kind of go about it, and you start a family, you do this, you do that, and you have to follow these things. It's like, well, wait, hold on. Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to work the same job my entire life? Why can't I, let's say, work multiple jobs that I really like and that I fuck around with? Or why can't, for example, side hustles, like you hear the whole side hustle thing, right? Like, what if I just wanted to do a bunch of stuff and just make money and live and create my own life and create my own story, my own path? Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's swallowing those pills that society teaches you to swallow. And it's like, this is what you have to do. But it's like, why is it that we have to do that? Like, I want to know, I want someone to tell me, why is it that I have to do this? Because last time I checked, this was my life. Nothing's dictated for you. No, granted, sometimes, depending on your situation, things are chosen for you and you're kind of set to go a certain way. But at the end of the day, you could always break that up. It doesn't have to go exactly that way. Your parents want you to go to school, become a lawyer. Let's say you go, you do it, and then after the fact, you're like, I hate this. I want to make cookies for the rest of my life. Because it happens. How often do you hear about stuff like that? I mean, I know for myself, maybe because I look for stories like that, I do see it pretty often. I have a story like that for my family. One of my cousins, his mom, just so bad with everything. She wanted him to become a doctor. So he went to medical school, graduated at the top of his class, became a doctor. And then once he got, his doctorate, he got everything. He handed over the diplomas to his mom and was like, here, this is for you. I don't want to do this. And because he hated it, but he did it just to kind of appease his mom. And his mom was so pissed. It was the wildest thing to do, considering that it took him, almost 10 years to get everything done. And he did work in the field for a little while, a couple years, but he hated it. He really did. He loved helping people, but he hated what he was doing. So it was like this, how would you say? It's like a catch-22 situation. You love it, but you hate it. And granted, yes, we can all end up in situations like that. But for him, he was doing something to appease somebody else. And the wild thing is he ended up leaving the medical field and he's a woodworker now. And he works in carpentry and he loves it. And I know a lot of you, even as I'm saying this story, you're probably like, what? How do you leave becoming a doctor and like the money and this and that? And it's different. It's different. Money and those types of things, for certain people, it's not everything. And I think sometimes your happiness, when you realize what you're willing to trade for it and what you're willing to do for it, your happiness will push you a lot further than money can. Money can take you places, but there's certain things that money just literally cannot buy and cannot do for you. And I think when it comes to your happiness and you realize what you have to put first, for him, he realized that. And that was through medical school. Because again, he hated it. But now he lives a very happy life. It's very humble. And he goes about it with a smile on his face. And he never like shies away from it when people ask him. Because, he's a woodworker with a doctorate. And he's a legitimate doctor. He's insanely smart. Like he's an amazing cat. But now he's over here just doing his thing. And it's like, you look at stories like that. And like, when I heard that story for the first time, I was like, holy shit. Like, what am I doing? Am I doing something that I'm happy with? Am I really happy with it? Did I really do it for me? And I did. That I can say, at least career-wise, I do love being a designer. I do love being a creative. I'm very, very, very thankful that I went that path and that I had, like, that my mom was supporting me and that the people around me were supporting me enough to be like, yo, if that's what you want to make you happy, then go for it. Because I had a couple different career paths that I was thinking about and they were starting to change up last minute. Not like I was going through the changes that I am right now, but I remember before I jumped into art school, I was like, dang, so I'm kind of thinking about this. I'm kind of thinking about that. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Do I want to become a psychologist? Do I want to go into archaeology? Because those were all things I was really considering. I started considering finance because at the time I loved the stock market. I loved processing numbers and projections and things like that. And I was like, no, like what's ultimately going to make me happy? Like, what am I truly happy doing? And I actually boiled it down to two things, which was I got down to archaeology and art. And I was like, okay, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? Because we all want to some extent, I feel like if you were into Indiana Jones at any point in your life, you're like, I want to do that. I want to go discover shit. I want to unearth all these bones and ruins and things and just travel the world and just, find maps and do all this cool stuff. But it's not like that all the time, right? It's not. And I had to think about that. And I had these really great mentors at the time that were like, look, we love this and we see that you love this. But they're like, it is a very lonely life to a certain extent because you will travel, you will do things. But the key words with those are you. If you have a partner, they're going to leave everything behind because the majority of the time, they will not be able to work unless they can work remote. And this was years ago, right? So it's like, we were nowhere near pandemic, like nothing. So working remote was crazy. Like if you had a job that you worked from home, it was like, whoa. Now, of course, it's very normal. It's a thing. But at the time, I was just like, damn, dude, you're right. It is going to be a very lonely life. Very, very lonely. And even the mentors that I had, husband and wife now, they weren't married for a long time. And they would just kind of talk here and there. And they got married way later in life. way later. And a lot of it was because of the career paths that they chose. They'd be in complete opposite sides of the world. You know, one's over here in Australia, one's in the States. Next thing you know, one's in Egypt and the other one's over here. And then it's just like going all over the place. And they both hit a point where they were like, we don't want to be without one another because love is a priority. As beautiful as it is of a career path, it is a very lonely one. So when they made the decision to shift up, combine businesses in one way, and like jump into the whole teaching realm and just kind of be able to balance that, now they're able to have a life together, but so far down the road. So they're like, dude, if this isn't something for you or doesn't sound attractive in that way, maybe it's not it. But maybe it's something you carry with you for the rest of your life. You know, you will always carry an interest in these things. And I do. I love archaeology. I love discovery. I love reading maps and doing all that stuff. And like, those are things I always carry with me. But I knew art was going to make me happy. So going into that, I have no regrets. Being in school was insanely difficult, which I know I've talked about multiple times here on the show. But what I gained from that really helped me become who I am today. For sure. And I know a lot of people that are watching and listening right now they can attest to that. Because everything that I do has some sort of creative aspect, whether it's the photography, the video work, the design work, the cars that I work on, the cars that I build. There's something that I can always take from my skills that I got in art school. And it made me more of who I am, I think, more than anything else, because I've always been a creative since I was a kid. I've always had a really wild imagination. It's just, I think the best way to describe me, like as a kid, was probably the show like Bobby's World, which a lot of you actually probably listening and or watching right now, you probably know what Bobby's World is, because generationally, I think a lot of us were kind of in that group. But for those of you who didn't know what Bobby's World was, one, that's sad that you didn't get to see that because it's really badass. But basically, it's just about this kid who he has a really wild imagination and he just kind of makes things up and he goes on these adventures and it's just him. It's him and it's all made up. It's all in his head. You know, he's just kind of creating these worlds and doing these things. And that was me. And I was like, how can I keep that part of me alive? And getting and jumping into art was always the best way that I could do that. So have I fallen in and out of love with it? Of course. Do I get into these like really massive creative ruts? Of course. But right now, this is the one thing that I feel like in my life that is stable. So when Zoe and I were talking about this stuff, I was like, look, dude, it's okay to feel like this right now. It's okay to kind of go through the motions. I think you have to let yourself go through the motions the same way like we always talk about, right? Like when you feel your emotions, when you feel things, sit in it. Let it wash over you, because you have to let it wash over you. If you keep stopping the wave from coming, eventually the dam's going to break. You have to let it break. Let it hit you full force, everything. And I think if you let it hit you without trying to stop it so soon, I think the hit isn't as hard. I think the hit isn't as hard for sure, because explaining it like in the sense of a dam, like if you were standing trying to block the water, if you let it flow the way it would probably stay at your feet. You get me? Like it would sit there and maybe just wash over your feet, possibly start to come up, maybe it wouldn't pass your knees. But if you start to build up a dam and you're trying to block everything and block everything, eventually you build this wall, let's say 6-7 feet high. If something happens in that structure, anything, any split, any crack, anything like that, it's going to start to break. And the moment that wall breaks, rather than having, let's say like a foot or two of water kind of washing at your feet, something that you can still walk through and manage, now you have this towering wall, 7 feet tall, of rushing water that's just going to come and blast you, dude. You're not even going to be able to stand. There's no way. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how much you set up. You're not going to be able to stand. And that's why I'm like, Zoe, let it wash you. Feel it right now. Sit in this funk. Let it do its thing, because I'm feeling it too. Thankfully, not for my creative work, because again, that's the one ground that I have to stand on. And I'm very thankful for that, because again, as you guys know, since you guys are walking with me on this journey, I didn't feel like this for a long time. I wasn't creating for a long time. I could care less, as a matter of fact, about creating for a very long time. And when you're in those moments, you kind of feel like you're never going to get out of it. And that was my number one fear, is I'm like, well, if I'm never going to create again, or like if I don't, and that's kind of like outlandish to say, right? Like, oh, you're never going to create again, being a little dramatic, but you just kind of feel this never ending sense of like, well, how am I going to do it? Because if I don't want to do it right now, how am I going to want to do it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or next week or whatever? Because you don't know how to get out. But right now, this is where I'm standing. And I know that for him, especially, once he finds any sort of footing, he's going to be all right. And for a lot of us, that's what we need. We just need to catch a little bit of our footing. And once we start to catch that, it gives you something else to run on and to keep moving. And next thing you know, you're standing on solid ground. So right now, like, that's what I'm trying to drive into, is what is really moving me forward, which is just any sort of creative work. So I'm trying to, again, just as you guys have been seeing on my personal page, like, push out the photography, push out work. I have some creative work that's coming out pretty soon, and I'm really excited about it. You know, like tonight, I'm going to have a conversation with my buddy Adrian that I went to high school with. And he's the only person, he's probably one of 2-3 people that I talk to, not at night, like talk to, but he's the one that I talk to the most from high school, because I like disconnected from all those people for multiple reasons. But he was one of my closest friends. And he was also the most creative friend that I had at the time. He and I were always painting. We were always into graffiti. We started running around the city, putting up stencils. Like, we would do all these creative projects. I still have canvases and pieces that he and I have done together. I have them hanging in my room, because those are things that remind me of when I was gassed up. When he and I would literally be in his parents' garage. We used to have, it was like a single light bulb. Like, we went to IKEA. We dipped out to IKEA. We used to always go and just chill and have lunch and like try and buy one random thing we could use in our art studio, which was his parents' garage. And we bought this. I remember it was like a single light bulb holder, right? It's just like on like a rope. And so I remember we tossed it up through the rafters, hung that light down, and we're like, yeah, we got light in the studio. Like, because we used to call it our studio. And we would just sit there and we'd paint for hours. We'd dip out to LA. We'd go buy boxes of paint that we didn't have money for, but we figured it out. We'd dip over to Blix, which was like a really dope art store, which is still around today. We'd go buy stuff to make stencils. We'd go buy, adhesives and tapes and all these things, and just go to Michael's and stack up our coupons and buy hella canvases and just figure out how to do stuff. And we're like, tight, okay, I'm going to paint this painting today. I'm going to do this. And we would gas each other up. And it was so dope. That point in time was so dope. Like, I remember even one random story, not to go super far off, but when we were trying to decorate the studio, we went skating around his neighborhood one night, and we saw somebody who had put out like an iron bench that was just out on the street. It was like very old schools. It was just tons of filigree, but it was like iron. Like, it was just heavy, it was old. And we looked at each other and we were skating, like, we stopped and we sat on it. And granted, super uncomfortable because it's just iron, but we're like, this would look tight in the studio. And then we looked at each other. We're like, hell yeah, dude. We put that shit on our skateboards and we pushed that shit all the way home. And I remember when we pulled up to the house, his mom was like, fools, what? We're like, Mom, it's cool. Like, don't worry about it. It's for the studio. So here we were just trying to do something tight. We were trying to make a space. We had our little speakers and always playing hip hop, and we were in the jams all the time. It was either like hip hop or indie. Like, we fucked with all kinds of music. And granted, I know he and I still do, but I constantly looking at the pieces that I have, like, it reminds me of that innocence and what I was chasing at the time, which was happiness. We weren't doing it for money. We weren't trying to make it. Social media wasn't really a thing. There's Facebook at the time, but we didn't really care. We're over here trying to just do cool shit. because it made us excited. It made us happy. He and I, that's it. We would just talk about pieces, and we would make these pieces and be like, hell yeah, and then hang them in our room. So I'm like, we're over here spending all this money trying to do this stuff just to hang these pieces and swap them amongst ourselves. And I remember his little sister, Yvette, she would come in the studio and chill too, listen to music, you know. And it was tight as she got older because she started to like get with the vibe, and she would help us sometimes if we were going to like print a t-shirt or like anything. She was always down. And it was tight. It reminds me of a good time in life. So the fact that I'm reconnecting with him and we are working on something creative together is really fucking cool. It's really fucking exciting. And that's what I need to continue running towards, right? Is things that drive me, that push me forward. You know, because I have this stuff with him. I have some other stuff that I'm working on with some other friends. I have 2 other buddies that I have creative things going on with. And it's like I keep I'm looking forward to that in the new year, even right now. Like I'm not saying it has to start after the new year, right? Because it's taking place now. But going into the new year, it's like this is going to be something good. And I want to continue, you know, rocking and rolling with this whole idea of pushing that. And when the thing is, because that's where my love is, that's where my focus is, I feel like everything else I'm kind of starting to let go of, especially I think in the car side or on the car side, excuse me, because not that I don't love cars still, because I do, of course. It's a part of my everyday life. Every single day. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not looking at cars or something car related. It's just not possible. It's too much. It's not just something that I do. It's not a hobby. It is my life. Cars are my life. So, you know, it's part of my career, everything that I do. Some of these projects that I have that are coming up are literally car and or truck related, which is sick. But again, it's my everyday. It's my life. But last night, you know, when Zoe and I were walking around looking at cars, we're just like, man, the new generation of car enthusiasts is such a bummer. Like it doesn't make me excited. Like I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to go to events. I don't want to do stuff like on the Japanese side specifically. There's just nothing that's driving me, that's keeping me there. Do I love my car? Of course. Of course, dude. I love the Q. I love driving it. I love being in it. I love just the feeling that it gives me. It makes me feel like myself. I can just go play my jams, do my thing. And it's an extension of who I am, right? Like I get to show people a part of me without even having to say a word. You know, like they know what's up. They see me pull up in that car. Oh shit. Yeah, that's Rob. That's Rob. Even if you don't know me, you could look at the car and be like, oh yeah, that's Rob for sure. That's him. That's the guy. And I take a lot of pride in that because the car was built not just by myself. The people that I love were involved in this car. All my family. My family helped me build this entire car. They're standing with me, you know, and literally like my family, my mom, my grandma, my uncle, those people are all a part of that. You know, Albert, just everybody. So it's like, I take a lot of pride in that piece, but being a part of the scene is very like, it's just very whack. I'm not here for it. Like, it doesn't make me excited. People don't care about stuff the way that they used to care about it. Like, there's no standard anymore. It's like you can pull up in this doo-doo ass car and like we're supposed to be wowed by it. People are supposed to be stoked about it. Like, I'm not stoked about it, dude. Like, not like I'm trying to be a hater, but I know I've talked about this before, but there's levels to this shit. And if you're not there, it's cool. It's a part of the game. It's a part of the game. Not everybody's going to start at the top. I think, and the only reason why some people start at the top is because they got the bankroll for it. If you got the bankroll for it, you know, mommy and daddy got you or whatever, or maybe you have it yourself. Maybe you got a real good job and all of a sudden you can do it. Cool. Handle. But there's levels to this shit. And for those of us who have been a part of the Japanese scene, especially on the stance side, who've come up with it to watch it grow to where it is today, it's just mad disappointing. Because again, we remember a time back in the day where you had a junk ass car. You didn't park with everybody who was like hot shit. You didn't even attempt to park with everybody who was hot shit. The people who ran, quote unquote, ran the scene. Out of respect for them, you parked on the other side. You parked like far away. And you were trying to work to get to be able to park where everybody's hot shit. Because you're like, out of respect for them, out of respect for the scene, out of respect for what we do, I want to work to get to that point. But that's not there anymore. It's like, I feel like it's not there. So it's just, it bums me out. It bums me out because I'm like, man, these fools are whack. And that's why I'm running so heavy towards and moving so heavy towards like the lowrider and classic scene, because it's very much that. And it's not, I'm not trying to sound like this fucking old angry ass car dude, but they have it right over there because they still follow the rules. You know, hey, if you're not here yet, it's cool. You can be here at this event. Come through, park, bring your car, but also understand you can't put it right here with everybody else because you got these dudes and these girls out here that have been building some of these cars and trucks for years. And you can tell you got some cats out there with $20,000-$25,000 paint jobs. Now, I'm not saying you got to have that kind of paint job to be there because you don't. You fully don't. But if you got something all primered, it's all messed up and just, you know, banged up, all nasty, obviously you're not going to pull up next to a whole row of cars that are, let's say, worth $50, $60, $100,000 a piece. You're just not going to do that because you're like, oh, dude, that's mad disrespectful. Like, I'm not trying to say like I can park here because you can't. But none of that ever has to be said because fools just know. They're like, yo, out of respect, like, I'm going to be over here, you over there. And I hope to one day be able to be on this side. One day, you know? It's like even when I was talking about, you know, Waxer's funeral, when all the genocide was parked up on the side, for myself, it's like, yeah, I'm there to pay respects, but I'm going to fall in line. I'm going to be over here on the back. Could I have driven down that street? Could I continue to drive down that street and then just kind of flip and park like, you know, right next to them where they were at? Of course. But I'm like, nah, dude, no way. And I'm not saying that like my car's not good enough, but I understand the rules. I understand how things work. Like, just fall in line. That's it. Just, I'm going to chill over here, you know, especially for something like that, because that wasn't about me. It's just, but I'm here to pay respects and I'm here to fall wherever I need to fall. But that's why I love that realm so much, just because of the love, the respect, the way that things run on that side. And like, I had a friend of mine ask me recently, and I actually had the same conversation with Albert. So I guess I'll talk about it with Albert so you guys have a name for reference. Albert had asked me if I see myself leaving the Japanese scene at some point. And I said, like, wholeheartedly, no, I don't think I will. I think stepping away for a little bit might be necessary, but I would never leave the Japanese scene entirely because I love it too much. It's too much of my everyday. A lot of my dream cars, my dream builds, they're all within the Japanese realm. And I love it. I love the culture outside of here. Outside, I think of like SoCal, because I think the culture is very much alive in other places. Like, I love seeing how it's held down on the East Coast. A lot of the homies that are over there, the way they hold down drift culture is something else. It's something else, you know, Final Bout, everything that they're doing over there. It's just, it's unbelievable. And those are the things that I look to. So like, that stuff excites me, you know, Lock City Drift, all that, like all those things excite me. Japan excites me. I can't wait to go one day. I was supposed to go this year, but due to a couple things, I will not be able to go this year. Or maybe I will be able to go, but just not for TAS like I had planned. But so I do still want to go. So it's not that I'm falling like out of love with Japanese cars or with the Japanese scene, but it's the Japanese scene here in SoCal. That's what doesn't make me excited. That's what doesn't make me feel like I want to get up at 6 a.m. and go to this show and do this thing. Like, I'm not here for it. If the homies are going to get together and we all want to kick it and we want to bring the cars out, cool, I'm down. I'm down. I'll gas it up. I'll figure it out. Whatever, air my tires up, whatever I have to do. I'll get there. Let's kick it. But to make it out of my way to like go to like a week fest or something like that, like I'm not here for it. I'm not. It's not the vibe. But I think there's something special to be said about scenes that are still thriving and scenes that are still pushing. Like lowriders have really made a massive comeback, especially with laws being passed about cruising not being a crime, and that you can be out there with the homies and you can be hitting switches, and that it's cool that the cops aren't going to come and mess with you. They're not going to shut you down. They're not going to come flag your car and give you an impound and like whatever. They're letting these things happen. And it's tight for people like me because I can go and witness and keep that culture alive. And that's why I love posting these pictures and taking and doing these things and showing you guys what this is all about and how I see it. This is just how I see it. Like when you're there, it's a completely different story. But there's a lot of really talented photographers around me that are in that same realm, and just media creators in general, right? But that's where it's at. That type of stuff drives me. It pushes me further, and it makes me feel more myself than anything else right now. I feel at home in those places when I'm at those shows, when I'm at these events like that. Because I love oldies. I love classics. Like it's just how I grew up. I grew up in that culture, shouts to my mom. Shouts to my mom for introducing me to that culture and her instilling in me that, hey, this is a part of you. This is a part of who you are, And I didn't realize how important it was until I got older. Before, it was just like, oh, lowriders are cool when I was a kid. I watched them like watch fools hit switches and be listening to oldies. And I'm like, this is cool. But I didn't realize how cool that shit really was. And obviously now being at this age and getting to the place that I've gotten to, I'm like, damn, dude. Like, I look at my mom and I'm like, this is crazy. She's like, yeah. She's like, again, this is your culture. This is you. This is your people. You have a right to be here. We out here doing this thing. Hold it down. And that's why, again, when I get to share these pictures and get to share these things with you, it's not just sharing the cars, it's sharing the culture, it's sharing blood, it's sharing sweat, it's sharing tears. That these people have built these pieces of art to float around, to express themselves, to express and hold it down for their boys, their entire club. And it's like they're just out here in force. And again, that's why I love it so much. And the loyalty that these guys have to each other, these guys and girls, right? But again, that's why I have so much love and praise for clubs out here like Genocide, Los Coyotes, Cabrones. Like there's all these different clubs that ride out here that I'm like, this is it. This is it. This is where it's at. These fools get it. These fools get it. That's what needs to be. I don't want it to be adopted by the Japanese culture. Like, I don't want people to take that on. I don't think it should be taken on like that. But it's like, this is where it's at. This is the core. This is the culture. And I know, again, this is where I feel at home. So this is where I plan on staying. I don't plan on leaving that anytime soon. So a lot of the work that will continue to get posted will be from stuff like that. And there's a couple events coming up that I'm going to be attending that I'm really excited about. And I'm excited to be able to capture these things and shake more hands and meet more people and share this stuff with you guys, because that's what makes me happy. And I'm trying to, again, run and push towards that, because everything else I feel like is so unstable. And again, going back to this conversation with Zoe, that's what we were talking about, is trying to find the grounds to walk on. So for myself, I'm trying to stabilize my career, but it's not there. I'm still trying to do that. It's a daily struggle. But I know that one day it will be stabilized. And I'm going to be glad to have gone through certain growing pains and doing things, because building a business on your own is a massive risk for anybody. And I think especially in the creative field, because it's so competitive. There's so much going on, and you're always trying to do whatever you can to just get some sort of income, to do something. So I know one day that's going to be stable with my family. I'm trying to stabilize things there, because it's crazy. We're all trying to navigate these losses that we've had and trying to shift and move and figure out how things are going to work from here on out. So I'm trying to get some stability there. For me in my personal life, I'm trying to stand and move and shift and change things so that I have a ground to walk on myself. Because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where things are going to go. Stuff with my love life, trying to get all of that situated. Because like we've talked about, love is a big thing for me. It's very important. It's a big driver for me. I love love. I love the idea of it. And I would love to share my life with somebody. And I'm trying to get those things sorted out. Am I desperate for it? No, of course not. But I'm in a situation right now where there's an opportunity for something. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me try to stabilize this. Let's try and set this up where it feels good. It's good for everybody. I win, the other person wins. We can win together. Like, what's up? But again, still trying to stabilize that. So there's all these boards that are just uneven. And the one board that I feel like I can stand on is this one thing that I love. And even though I'm falling out of love with other things, again, like stuff like with the cars and all that, I'm regaining or finding new love in all these other things. Even fashion, like as much as I love fashion, I kind of fell out of it for a while. And I started to jump back into it, starting to collect certain pieces, starting to get certain things. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through my closet. I need to start clearing stuff out that I don't wear, that doesn't really fit me, that I just don't like. Let's move it on. I'm trying to, I think within the next week or two, my plan is to set up like some sort of online store, like a Depop or something like that, and just post stuff up. Couple bucks here, couple bucks there. Like not to make money, just to move stuff, just to get rid of stuff. So people, if someone wants something, there you go, boom, done. Here's a tight little piece. Here's a tight little piece, whatever, anything like that. And, so again, kind of kindling that love of fashion. It's tight. I love that. It's everything. I need it. That's coming back to me, rekindling my love with art, collecting art. Because I had a period of time that I was doing it really strong and then I let it go. That's another one that that I rekindled heavy, super, super heavy. I went from not buying any art, not collecting. All of a sudden, I'm getting stuff from all these people. And I'm over here buying 10, 12 prints at a time. Just mass buys. Like I have an artist that I bought from the other day. She's based in Colombia. And she was doing like for Black Friday. She did a Black Friday thing that there was a piece that she was releasing for Black Friday, and I was planning to buy that piece specifically. She turns around, she had a wild sale on her stuff. And I was like, wait, what? Again, boom, 10 prints later. But it makes me happy. It makes me happy to have these pieces that somebody took the time to draw, to do whatever. And when I frame them, it's just like, sick. I love this because these are things I'll have for the rest of my life, and I'll get to pass them down. If I have kids, I get to pass them down to my kids, my homies. Like if one of my boys or like a homegirl really loves a certain piece, and let's say their birthday's coming up, wrap it up here. You're always looking at this. You really love it. I want you to have it. So it's things like that. I love acquiring those little stuff. So like that type of love has been rekindled. So again, I'm trying to focus my love on things that have been rekindled because there's a reason why. So because there's a resurgence for me in art and fashion and in a certain realm of automotive, then I'm like, let's continue driving down that path. Let's not focus so much on what I'm not loving so much. Let's not focus so much on what doesn't make me happy. And let's put the focus over here. And if this stuff comes back, cool, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let it come through. The door's open. I'm not closing the door on anything. But I heard this thing from Jay Shetty today, which was really interesting. And it was something that he heard from somebody else. And basically what it was is you open as many doors as you can in your life. You want to open every door that you can so that you can go through anything. And even as you walk past them, leave the doors open. And if certain doors close, it's okay. But continue walking and continue opening doors. Because for every door that opens, there's probably going to be a door that closes. And it's okay because the one that opens is probably where you're supposed to go. You're supposed to peek in and out of all these things. I think life is about the mystery. Life is about the search. It's about the everlasting chase of happiness for good, peace, all those things. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I'm in this place where I'm trying to open as many doors as possible, and that's what I'm doing. It's like a lowriders, classics, art, fashion, all this. Again, new friends, things getting shifted around, just kind of opening these doors. What's up? And the ones that close, for whatever reason, let those doors close. Because maybe it's not for me. And they could reopen. I'm the one that has the key to all of it. But if it's not meant for me right now, then it's cool. It's cool. I'm trying to make peace with that. I'm trying to just do my thing. And it's interesting because when I was trying to think of advice on the same, on the topic, right, as to what we're going through right now, because I was like, what am I going to say? Like, what 2 cents could I give? What words of wisdom could I give based on this? Because it's me just kind of talking about how things are changing and what I'm finding love in, what I'm falling out of love with and stuff like that. And just trying to have grounds to walk on. I was trying to think and think and think. And as I was on Instagram this morning, I came across this video, like a reel, which I know happens a lot. It happens a lot, right? Because we talk about it. I'll be like, oh, I heard this on a reel. I heard this on a reel. But I do. That's the one thing I love about reels, because in just that short format content, because it lets you pull these little bits of information that are so powerful. And I'm like, yes, that part. What you said times 10, like, I'm here for it. And I mean, that's why I love creating the reels that I can, like, from the podcast, because I get to pick and pull these pieces that I feel like are really important, and I get to share them with the world. And then I get to have people listen to the episodes and watch the episodes because of those clips. Because they're like, yo, I really like what you said there. I want to hear what else you have to say. So it's tight. So when I heard this one specific reel, it was from this guy, Joshua Rosa. And he speaks from a very pure place. I think all the concepts and stuff that he talks about are really tight. Like, I'm here for it. And he talked about this thing specifically. And when he said it, I was like, ooh, it got me a certain way, because it kind of reminded me of what I have heard, or what I heard Jay Shetty say about the doors opening and closing and what's meant for you type of stuff. And what it says is this: if people are treating you like you're nothing in their lives, then you need to be just that, nothing in their lives. People will always make clear in their actions where you belong. And at the end of the day, it's up to you to choose whether to stay or to move. And the reason why that quote hit me a certain way is because it has to do with doors opening and closing, and you realizing whether you standing in front of a door that continues to close is worth standing there, when sometimes you need to just walk away and move towards the other open doors. Because there's a reason why it keeps closing. And it doesn't mean, again, that door can't reopen, but maybe for the time being, maybe it needs to stay closed. Maybe some stuff needs to get worked on. Maybe the lock's a little bit funny. Maybe the door handle's a little bit weird. You have to push it and pull it a certain way to get it open in the first place. It shouldn't be that hard. And I think for people, we will push this aside, right? Like, if someone continues to hurt us, or things continue to hurt us, we let it back in, or we constantly chase it. And then we wonder why we get hurt. We wonder why these things hurt us. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here judging, because I'll tell you right now, I'm the first person to tell you I go through this all the time. I put myself in these situations all the time, especially with people. Because I got stories for y'all. Stories and stories and stories that you'd be like, well, if you just didn't, XYZ, you wouldn't be in this position. And I know that. And like yesterday, I had a really brief conversation with Brianna. And I was like, dude, we have a saying in Spanish, me gusta la mala vida. And it's basically, there is a direct translation, but essentially what it means is like, I love living a life like making bad decisions. And for some of us, that's just what we do. And maybe not for everything, but for certain people or certain situations, we will put ourselves in that. So I think it's very important to just acknowledge this, that if things or people make you feel and treat you as if you're nothing, then be that. Be nothing to that thing or that person. Remove yourself from that situation, because it's the best thing for you, because their actions always make it clear where you are, especially when it comes to people, right? Because things can't really do that too much. But if it makes you feel a certain way, then that alone should tell you, okay, you know what? Maybe I should step away from this for a little while, or this person. Maybe I should kind of put some sort of barrier. I should put a little bit of distance. That way, if it's a person or that thing, I need to think about it a little bit and choose. And this even touches a little bit with what we were talking about last week regarding to the holidays, right? If you don't want to be somewhere, you don't have to be somewhere. If you don't want to be around certain people, you can choose to not be around them. Pay attention. Be hyper aware of those things, y'all. Be hyper aware. Give yourself the love and the grace that you give other people. And if you need to remove yourself from situations, do so. Do it. It's all about self-care. Self-care is heavy. Again, we tend to walk over that for the holidays, but never forget yourself, because if you're not good, nobody else is going to be good. That I can promise you. But as always, I thank you guys. I appreciate you. I'm sending you, every single one of y'all, love, light, good vibes, everything that I can send you that is positive, I'm sending it your way. Thank you for coming here every week, for showing me the support that you do, for listening, for sharing, for the conversations that have been started because of these podcasts. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. And I cannot wait for next week's episode so we can continue these conversations, keep it moving, keep the family growing. But again, sending y'all love and light, and I'll catch y'all next week.